My garage is messy, and I'm putting away my backpacking gear. And lately, I've been thinking about how I've been wanting to make a YouTube video or a YouTube channel and or a podcast. And so I've been thinking about it for a while, but the problem is I always overthink it. And I kind of thought I might as well just start. I'm just going to try. I'm going to go for it kind of thing. Maybe not full send or anything, but baby steps. Let's start with one. So, and I've been thinking if I have a YouTube channel or if I have a podcast, what would it be about? Would it be about traveling, parenting, healthy living? Those are things that I'm, family, like all passionate about. But what would my channel actually be about? I don't know. Maybe all the above. I'm not sure. But I kind of thought maybe I'll just start, and I will start with what I know. And so I thought I'm going to just kind of start with my story, my personal story. And it might not be all encompassing, and it might not be very good storytelling. I didn't rehearse this or anything, because if I were to, then I'd be overthinking, and I'd probably never get it done. So, even making like the Instagram videos, sometimes it's not like it's overwhelming. It's just I get kind of tired of it after a while. So here I go. So my name is Sarahanne Mora, and I just turned 35 last week, a week exactly from today. I have 2 kids, Jackson and Freely. Jackson is 11 years old, and Freely is 9 years old. She just turned 9 2 weeks ago. And I'm married to my wonderful husband, JP. He's my age just about, so he's 34. He hasn't turned 35 just yet. And I have a dog named Turbo, and he is 13. And so some things like we'd like to do, we like to travel and putting away backpacking gear because we just went backpacking. And I do very much, think about and care about, like I said, like healthy living. I don't know what I mean by that specifically. I just try to make healthy choices regularly. But, I'm not perfect, so not all the time. But in general. And so to start off, when I was younger, a kid, I never traveled. My family, we didn't do a whole lot of traveling, even outside of California. But we would go camping, and sorry, getting a stool because I can't reach. But we would go camping, and it was kind of rugged camping. It was like my parents had this property that they owned, undeveloped land. I mean, there was a house, 2 houses on it that had burned down, so which was kind of fun because we would explore in those areas, like in the burned down houses, and we'd catch newts and frogs, see snakes. Was always scared of bears, but never saw any. And we would, just kind of play in the woods, and that was a very good time. I never had been on a plane when I was a kid. The first time I was on a plane was when I was 18. And I have to sneeze. Where did I put the soap? excuse me. So the first time I'd been on a plane, I was 18. I went on a family trip to Hawaii with my grandpa. And then I wasn't like necessarily hooked on traveling at the time. I loved Hawaii, so we went to Hawaii, and that was really great. And then me and my husband, JP, we met in high school, and we were best friends for a while, and we got together after high school, like a year or so later. And he was in the military. He was first in Texas, like many people in the military. And so I went and visited him in Texas. We later moved to North Carolina. That's where I had Jackson. I was 23 years old when I had Jackson. And we got married. And we then moved to Japan when Jackson was just a baby. He was 3 months old. And so we moved to Japan. And that's kind of where I got way more interested in traveling. And it wasn't necessarily just because I was in Japan. It's because when we were in North Carolina, we kind of had these like future plans that we were going to do all these things. We were going to go to visit New York, Charlotte. We never even went to Charlotte, and just do all kinds of East Coast stuff because we're from California on the West Coast, and we never did it. So furthest we went up was New Jersey. We attempted to go to Washington, D.C. I mean, which we kind of did, but we just mostly passed through, and didn't go to New York, didn't go to Charlotte, stayed pretty local. So I think the furthest south we went was Georgia. The furthest north we went was New Jersey. And so to Atlantic City. So it was kind of that because I had this idea that, everyone says Goldsboro, that's where we are, where we were. It's a black hole. You're going to get stuck here. You're never going to leave, blah, blah, blah. And so it was kind of this mindset like, oh, we'll always have time. We'll always have time to visit that later. And we didn't. We missed our opportunity. I mean, not truly. We didn't really miss it, but that was the best opportunity. And we didn't take advantage. And so when we moved to Japan, I was like, I'm not going to let that happen again. And so we were sure to take those opportunities as they came. So when we were there, traveled with Jackson and just around Japan, went to Thailand, went to Guam, traveled there by myself. The first time when John was deployed, I took Jackson with me back to the US. I was supposed to take a military hop, which is free. So I traveled down to Tokyo by myself, to Yokota Air Base, tried to get on a hop, couldn't get on a hop. And so I ended up taking a flight, booking it on the spot, and going to LAX, where my sister's roommate, my sister Marianne, she was living in Long Beach at the time. Her roommate came and picked me up from the airport. John's or JP's, John's his aunt happened to be in LA, picked me up on the way up, brought me back to Sacramento. So I spent a couple of days in LA with Jackson. We went up to Sacramento. And I think it was like around that time that I realized like how not easy, but like how figure outable everything was. Like it was kind of like this, oh, well, this is what I have to do next. I'm just going to do it. And so traveling by myself with a baby, some people think that's intimidating. And maybe I would have thought that like just thinking about it, but in the moment, it didn't feel like anything. It felt like, oh, like that's what I have to do. And like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to make it and it came easy to me. And so there was no moments of freaking out. Like it actually all worked out pretty well. And, maybe if it wouldn't have, then I would have a different perspective, but it did. And so that is to say that just because you're a parent, like you doesn't mean that you can't take risks. I guess that's kind of my message here for now. So if you're a parent, like take some risk. It's okay. Even if it doesn't work out, learn from it and move on. And you and your child and everything, I think for the most part, will be better for it because you learn from that experience. Um, and that's also to say that we travel a decent amount, not like a ton, but a good amount. And a lot of people think of it as like an all or nothing type thing. Like you need to quit your job and travel the world, um, and have your kids be homeschooled and all this stuff. Or you stay home, you work a 9 to 5, and you just travel here and there when you can. And I want to say that that is not my experience. I don't think it's an all or nothing thing. I think that, like me and John, we work normal jobs. We took a big trip last year to Costa Rica, 3 months, where we quit our jobs, so we're in between, and that allowed us a lot of time to do that. But generally speaking, we work normal jobs. We don't homeschool. My kids go to public school, and I think that you can still, and like my kids are in sports, right? And I also want them to attend their games and practices and develop a passion for sports, because me and John, we're very passionate about our sports that we partake in. Me, soccer, snowboarding, John, basketball, snowboarding, golf. And so, and we like to be active. And so, um, we do have commitments that, you know, that sometimes can, in a way, prevent you from going out and exploring and traveling, etc. But that being said, if it's a priority for you, then you can make it work. You can have a quote unquote normal life, and you can still make the time to get out there, explore, do new things, travel, um, push yourself, challenge yourself. We just did a backpacking trip to the Desolation Wilderness. It's October, and it was challenging. It was hard for my kids, for me, and that's because it was really cold. We packed winter gear, heavy winter gear, and our packs were super heavy. We're going up in elevation, and we're not doing a lot of miles because their packs were heavy, but it was freezing cold. And my daughter, at one point when it was windy, she's like, "Are you enjoying this, Mom?" And because they were not enjoying it. And my son, he asked me, he's like, "Mom, why do you like to do this kind of stuff? Because every year we do these like crazy things for your birthday. We went backpacking this year. A different year we went bike packing. And so we don't do things every year, but it's like when it's my choice on what we're going to do, it's usually going to be something challenging, and it's often my choice. But um, and I told him, I was like, I like to do hard things. Like I don't really know other than that what else to say, but that it's true. I do enjoy the challenge, of some of these things, and so the physical, mental, emotional challenge, like the bond it creates between people, or in our case, our family, when you go through a challenge together. I enjoy that. And so that's what I told him. I like to do hard things, like, and that's it. And then the next night was not as cold, wasn't windy at all. And it was so much better. It was way more pleasant. Stars were out. It's gorgeous. We did a hike that day. We saw some really good views. My friend came, and it really kind of turned their experience around, and they ended up liking it and enjoying it. And so it made it worth it. Even if it hadn't, what if it was still windy, so super cold, we could have left. We were I wasn't married to staying there a second night. And but because the weather was getting better and did get better, um, we stayed that extra night. And I'm glad that we did, because I didn't want my kids to have this like negative feelings towards backpacking. And now I think that they've left with a much more positive like thought and feelings about it. So anyways, I'm a little bit all over the place with my story. Like I said, it's unscripted. I probably didn't think enough about it before creating this video, but I kind of thought to myself, if I don't start now, if I don't just do it, then I might never. And so there's that. I will have many more stories to tell in the future, I'm sure. Okay.